few months ago, it was April, and I made an April Fool's video of me giving a hand tutorial. But here's my actual hand tutorial. Don't worry, I was always planning on making this video, so now you can actually learn about hands. No worries, it's not April Fool's, because it's May, so. Oh my god, that was just last month, not a few months ago. Ignore me, I'm stupid. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Someone's texting me, and I hope you're doing well. I'm really sorry. On April 1st, all those shenanigans I pulled, yeah, I'm sorry about that, but I had to. Anyways. Oh, don't I always use red pen? Keep the tradition. I don't even know if that's a tradition. It is now. Unlike the other tutorials, this one I'm a little iffy about. Like, every single tutorial I make, I always put hard air quotes on tutorials because I always stress that there are multiple ways to draw something, and these are mostly just how I draw these things, and even though there are general tips that you should keep in mind, I don't want anyone to think that this is like the one solid way to do that. And that's still going to stand true for this one. Kitties, go in your room.
I am!
Cool.
Jesus.
Can you close your door?
No!
But I'm filming.
I don't care.
Can you close your door?
No.
Hands are something that I'm not as confident in drawing. Everyone says that they like the way that I draw hands. So I'm just going to take your word for it that I know what I'm doing a little bit, but I don't think I know what I'm doing. So this tutorial might be a mess, but it's okay. I'm going to try my best. And I wanted to film this earlier, but then my cat spilled water on my desk, but it's okay because now I have Dr. Pepper. As always, before I even do anything, practice and reference pictures. Those are the two #1 tips that I always give. What's this? In every single video. This tutorial's taking me so long to even get to the hands. But those, it's gonna take a while. A lot of people want to be able to just draw perfect, like they look like a photograph looking hands, but that's not how art works. You have to make a lot of ugly looking hands before you can make hands that look not ugly. So I did start off my April Fool's video by saying that we have hands and we can reference them, and that is true. Now I am right-handed, and so all of the hands that I draw referencing my own hand, you ever just get cuts and you don't know what happened? All of the hands that I reference of my own are going to be my left hand because I use my right hand to draw, but it's okay. And also, again, like always, breaking things down into basic shapes. Throughout my art career, I've used a different number of guidelines for pretty much everything, especially hands, because hands are a complex thing. So I'm going to show you what I used to do, and then kind of what I do now. And I got from guideline A to guideline B from just drawing them a whole bunch, so I don't need as many guidelines. There we go. So I would start by having like a trapezoid shape, and then I would break down each finger into their own like different sections, because each finger is divided into 3 sections. Another nice thing to add is the bone right here. Add that wrist bone. So this is kind of the guidelines that I would use when I was starting to really try and make my hands look not stupid. So I would have, let me get a different colored pen, I'm a professional. So there would be kind of like rectangles in each of the fingers, and there would always be 3. Each one that's stacked up on top of each other, each one would get even shorter than the other one. I just totally changed the length of that finger, but it's fine, you get the picture. And then we have the knuckles here, which I would always just do as circles. This trapezoid shape, and then the thumb is a little weird. It would be another sort of trapezoid shape instead of a rectangle. And then that, and then woot woot. Now the reason that I stopped doing this, A, because I've been drawing hands for a long time now, I don't need all of this. This takes a lot more like finagling, I guess? I don't know, is that even a real word, but so many people use that, so I'm just going to assume that it is. This one takes a lot of time to sort of get right, because you have to keep adjusting every little shape and make sure that it's the proper like size and proportion and everything. Trust me, it's a very helpful thing to know when you get started, because knowing how each finger is able to bend and everything It's a very helpful thing to know. Now, speaking of sizes and proportions, what are those sizes and proportions? I am glad you asked, and also that's why you were probably watching this video, to learn how to draw a hand. Who would have thought? Now, these proportions aren't exact, especially because every person is different, and every proportion is they're going to be slightly different from person to person, but in general, look at your hand. Your middle finger, like that, and then your palm, they're roughly the same length, and so when you're drawing a hand, make sure that those two are kind of equal in height. I don't know why that was so hard for me to think of. But then also your other fingers, obviously they vary in sizes. Your middle finger is the longest one. Depending on who you are, these two fingers will be different sizes, but they're roughly the same height. And then pinky is obviously the shortest. The pinky and the thumb are roughly the same length, but since the thumb is on the side of your hand instead of on the top, the thumb tends to look shorter. So even though these are the same length, make sure your thumb isn't all the way up here when you're drawing hands. And so if we keep those guidelines, haha! It's a hand! Might have drawn that thumb a little though, but it's fine. It's okay, I'm only making a tutorial. Why have good art, huh? One last proportional thing before I move on. The entire hand, so like fingers, palm, everything, is roughly the size of your face. Not your head, your face. Cute little kawaii face. The head shape's a little weird, but it's okay. This and this, they're roughly the same size. Again, it's not exact, and depending on your style, it might be bigger, it might be smaller. Mine is slightly smaller. So here I kind of showed how I draw hands now. So let me break that down for you. I start with a circle, really rough circle. A thumb always comes out the side, and then I just kind of do whatever, honestly. I kind of just know the shape of a hand at this point. And now you'll notice I kind of drew the middle finger and the ring finger kind of as one blob. You might be wondering, why? Take your hand, put it out in front of you like this, right? And then just, it doesn't matter what position, just put your hand down. Put your hand down. Just do something. Now, even if they aren't pressed together, when your hand is resting naturally, the middle finger and the ring finger are just naturally drawn to each other. I don't know why that is. I don't know what in the muscle structure or whatever. I don't know anatomically why that is. I just know that as an artist, that's something that I really keep in mind. It's a really nice and easy way to help make your hands look a lot more natural. And so if you look at literally any hand that I draw, like let me see if I can, even though the hand is bunched up, I have the ring finger and the middle finger. Here it is again. Here it is again. Literally every single hand that I draw, it's literally like that. Something super, super helpful, and then I always add that line in there. So this is what I typically use now. I would suggest if you're really struggling with hands, start off with one, and then move on to two after you've been drawing this for a heck of a long time. Because the only reason I'm able to draw this and have it look like proportionally accurate and stuff is because I've been drawing hands for years. Now, another thing to help make hands look a little more natural. So you'll notice on pretty much all of these, except for this one, ignore it. On pretty much all of these, the fingers are just completely straight. They're just pointing up. And obviously there are times where you want a stiff-looking hand, like if you're drawing someone waving, then you would want your fingers to be stiff and straight, but not all of the time. If you want your hand to be looking a little bit more natural, you should give them a little bit of curl, because if you notice, if you like lay your hand down, they like curl up. Now this is something that you should be a little bit careful of, because it can really change how the hand feels, if that makes any sense. So a little bit of curling can make it look very relaxed and natural, but if you curl it even just a tiny bit, it makes it look stiff and like, you know? So that's something that you have to keep in mind, and I don't have a real tip for that. It really is just a trial and error thing, just real light and rough. And now typically the shape you want is like that. Your ring finger This isn't your ring finger, your pointer finger. This is the one that curls the least, and then your pinky is the one that curls the most. The thumb I always exclude because fuck the thumb. And so the pinky is gonna be pretty bunched up. And again, remember that there are the 3 sections, and so when the pinky curls, can I get this angled? So when the pinky curls up, it's like, here's the back of the hand, right? And then it goes in, in, in. That's kind of the shape we're going to go for. It's here, here, and here. And then the inside folds just follow those. Again, I always draw the ring finger and the middle finger as one finger. These ones will curl a little less, and these 2 curl about the same amount, but the ring finger curls just a little bit more than the middle finger, and then the pointer finger. And the thumb kind of curls, I guess, the same as the index finger. Why can't I remember the index finger? Obviously, this is the type of hand you would draw upside down. I didn't draw it upside down because I didn't feel like rotating my sketchbook. So there's those hand. That's a hand. Look, it's a hand.
I see.
Are you happy that I drew a hand? Like I was saying, depending on how much you curve these fingers, I don't know why I said it like that, how much you curve these fingers can change kind of the vibe of the hand. So since this one is like this finger is a little curled and then this one is super curled like that, and like I have another color like that and like that gives it kind of a more natural feel. But if we were to curl them all even more, like if let's say we curled them all like erg, it's like a you know. Moving on. I dropped my blue pen. I don't have another color anymore. So those are the tips that I have for drawing a hand, breaking them down into basic shapes, making them look a little natural. Now let's look up how to spice it up a little bit. When I started developing my current art style, my hands were pretty bare, I guess. Like they were pretty minimalistic. I didn't stylize them a lot. I would draw that. And if that's the type of hands that you want to have, then that's perfectly fine. But for me, I wanted to add more detail in it, but hands are one of those things where how do you add detail to a hand? So if we look at this hand, I like to add like wrinkles or implications of wrinkles. So let's draw a hand really quick. And then I need the back of the hand. I'm burping so much, I shouldn't have been drinking Dr. Pepper. Hi! How's it going, dude? Oh, I love it. It's cute. Do you want to show the world? Look what my sister drew. Wait. Look what my sister drew.
No feet for you.
So, anyways, before I was rudely interrupted.
What? You wanna fight?
Yeah. Things that I do to stylize my hands and make them a little jazzy. So, if you look at the thumb and basically any other finger, it's like that curve. I forget where I heard this and I forget if it's an official thing or not, but there's this type of stylized hand that are like frog hands. Like, you know how frogs, they have like the suction cups on the tips of their fingers and they're like super circular and like that. Some people draw them like that, and I can't make it that look good, but I do like to add a little bit of it. So if you've noticed, I like drawing mostly my thumbs, but also sometimes the other fingers. I like drawing it kind of bulbous, I guess you could say. Just kind of really exaggerating the musculature? I exaggerate the muscle structure of the thumbs. And then I also like to exaggerate this part. And then another thing that I like to try and include is this like skin piece thing. It's like there's no like muscle or anything in it. It's just that flab of skin in between your ring finger and your thumb, ring finger and your thumb, ring finger. Why can't I remember the index finger? And I also include the skin in between here. Now, if the skin in the fingers is a little like less obvious than the one in between the... I keep forgetting the index finger. Why can't I remember the index finger? The index finger and the thumb, it's a little less obvious, but I do like to include that as well. I also like to flare the pinky out. Pinky out. And again, I'll include the wrist bone. I like to add some lines here just to indicate that that's kind of like to indicate this line, this little wrinkle fold. And then for the other parts of the hand, I kind of just add lines like mostly underneath the fingertips just to give, I forgot to divide the fingers, just to give a little definition and remind you that there are fingertips there, because it's hard to define the fingertips when it's the inside of the hand, because on the back of the hand you have the fingernails. But there's nothing here, so I like to add those lines. And then I also like to include these lines here. There's not really a line here, but this is kind of just to define these big muscles right here. And then lines. If I can avoid doing these lines in line art, I can, because they're so subtle. It's more like I usually try and just add them in the coloring shading part of me drawing. Now on to the back of the hand. A lot of the same things apply, so like exaggerating curve, including the skin flaps. This is also where I add fingernails. Fingernails, I have no interesting thing to say about them. It's literally just like, it's kind of like a semi-oval, like an oval cut in half, the hamburger way. So I'll draw my fingers pretty much the same way I drew them on the other one, except obviously they're inverted. Now the next step that I do for when I'm drawing hands like this is knuckles, just because it looks really weird. I've got all this going on the inside of the hand, and so I like to add knuckles. And now I don't really draw the knuckles themselves, I more draw these spaces in between the knuckles, if that makes any sense. So when you separate your fingers, there's this like spot in between these two bones, and you can really see it when I go like this. So I'll just add a couple of lines, very like brief, and then depending on the character, I'll add like lines going even farther down, and that's like these bones. And again, adding the bone. The bone is on the same side as the pinky. I don't think I've ever actually said that, but you would never add the bone over here. It would always be whatever side the pinky is on. That is where the bone will be. One other thing that I like to add on my fingers, like the last thing that I do to make them jazzy. I don't know if these count as joints. Okay, rude. I don't know if these count as wrinkles or joints or both, but I like to add these. I don't normally add the ones up here, because since I draw the fingernails, it seems like it would be a little too cluttered, so I usually just add the ones in the middle. Am I forgetting anything? I think it's just about it in terms of how I draw my hands. What do you think, Jolie? Did I forget anything?
I don't know.
Do you have any questions?
No.
Well, there's my hand tutorial. Wasn't that helpful, Jolie?
No.
You're supposed to say yes.
I don't watch your videos.
Okay, well, let's just pretend, okay? Was this helpful?
No.
This is turning into the April Fool's video. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it handy. Hope you found some good pointers.
I will shove this down your throat.
Sometimes when you're drawing something, you get stuck and you just need a hand.
Stop it.
Puns aside, I hope this was helpful. And as always, practice.
Don't.
You are sending the wrong message. The only way you can draw hands is if you draw hands. A lot of people want to not draw hands in their picture and then get sad when they can't draw hands.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm personally calling you out, Jolie.
I don't know what you're talking about. I just drew a hand. You have video footage of my hand.
Pause it.
No.
I don't. Why are you like this?
Because I don't like you.
So you're scaring Zola. Let me know. That's not it. She's just trying to vibe. Practice. Use references, and also don't feel like you're distracting, Zola. Don't feel like this is the only way that you have to draw hands. Like I recommended breaking it down like this, just so you really understand the structure of the hands. You're gonna blind yourself. But don't feel like that is the only way to draw hands. Feel free to, after you learn about the structure of the hands, to break it down in your own way, to make your own guidelines. It really is just whatever you heckin' want. And I hope that this was helpful. If you have any other helpful tips for hands, leave them in the comments down below, because I'm sure there's something I left out. I tried to be as thorough as I can, but like I said, I don't know what I'm doing. And give this video, I believe next I'm going to make a tutorial on shoes, because when I had people vote on Instagram, thanks for smacking me in the face, when people voted on Instagram between hands and shoes, hands did win, but it was very, very close, and so I will make a shoe tutorial next, and then my tutorial after that. Stop putting animals on me. The tutorial that I make after shoes, I'll have another vote, so you guys can see You guys can pick, and this is getting chaotic, so I'm just going to end this video. If you are new here, consider...
Don't!
If you're new here, consider subscribing. I post a new video. Every Wednesday. And then extra videos whenever I can. So, are you on my desk? Zola! You can follow me on social media. They'll be on screen now and linked in the description box below. I gotta go because my dog is about to jump off my desk. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye!